Are you a pro wrestling fan? Then odds are at some point in your life, you were a backyard wrestler. In this new series, I'm going to take you through how we came from this to this. It's a long story, covering nearly 2 decades. But if you're a nostalgic person missing the backyard days of yesteryear and a simpler time of the 90s and early 2000s, this is the story for you. This is Backyard Wrestling Cinema. Welcome to Backyard Wrestling Cinema Season 5, Episode 2. It's March of 2003 and we're quickly approaching the spring. And we'll ultimately end this season with what was known as the final summer. Kicking off the show, Rob Blivius hands the owner, TJ Money, a note. In that note, it says Public Access, the channel where we were currently airing our TV show, would be sending a representative or a spokesperson to oversee all of our shows. TJ Money was distressed and annoyed about this situation, so he set up a match between himself and Rob Blivius later on. A 3-on-2 handicap match takes place to start the matches on this show, and it's Agent Bibbs, Travis Lee, and Joe D of Misery taking on Tommy Thunder and Mr. Benjamins. It was sort of the young crew of 3 versus the 2 veterans, even though we're all exactly the same age. But the idea was that Thunder and Benjamins had much more experience than the other 3, at least on our TV show.
How much commentator are you going to do that? Come on, seriously. Partner! He caught Benjamins with the action!
In the end, Tommy Thunder accidentally hits Mr. Benjamins, which caused him to leave ringside. After that, Joe D of Misery beat Tommy Thunder, which was a huge win for him. Tommy Thunder was one of our biggest personalities. It was the start of a push for Joe D of Misery, and even though he wasn't that big of a personality, he was dedicated and he was good in the ring, especially for how big of a guy he was at that time.
And now, wait a minute, Joe D got Tommy Thunder up. Oh, the end of misery by Joe D. Holy crap!
He got that victory over Tommy Thunder.
Speaking of good wrestlers, the United States champion Homeboy Joe Slice was out next, and he would take on Rico DMF. Most of the match was Rico DMF looking over his shoulder, trying to keep an eye out for Hellspawn, these two had went to war at When Worlds Collide just a couple weeks ago. Looking back, it felt like we ran this match, Rico and Homeboy, every other week, yet somehow they were always able to add a new spin to their matches.
And now, he's going for that power bomb. No, the Razor's Edge. And plants. Oh, and folded him up like an accordion.
It's one of those things I can look back now and appreciate more than we did back then. Eventually, as you might have guessed, Hellspawn came out, attacked Rico, without the ref seeing it, even though he 100% totally did see it.
Leave. Rico is gonna head for the hills. Oh, and he nailed him. Ref didn't catch it. Ref didn't catch it. Wait a minute, Homeboy distracting the ref now. Uh-oh. Oh, and using that pipe. Oh.
Rico eventually just bails and gets counted out. The idea being that Rico is so afraid of Hellspawn and what this guy can do to him. Next up was the previously announced match between Rob Blivius and the owner TJ Money. And since TJ was the owner, he made it a no DQ match. Immediately, TJ low blows Rob Blivius and the Old School Alliance comes out.
Could start off with a hug. Oh! Whoa. Right to the juice box. But it don't.
Old School Alliance was myself as Denver Street, Homeboy Joe Slice, and Hellspawn. And we say, right after this match, we're going to find out who that new public access spokesperson is. And yes, that person has more power than the owner himself, TJ Money. So much for building suspense, I guess. We had Hellspawn into this no DQ match. The OSA kept interfering on behalf of Hellspawn.
Homeboy TJ talking smack.
TJ Money did his usual play wrestler stick, which was just driving us all nuts.
He don't care. He just keeps going. Oh! That's a lot of money. What's he calling for? He calling for them people's money. Oh, that's educated. Oh, and he dropped. Oh, the slobbing.
And Hellspawn eventually got the win here.
TJ Money up. Jason. Oh, nailed it. Count it. 3.
Next up, we would reveal the public access spokesperson.
The person who now decides what can be aired and what shouldn't be aired. It's all in my hands.
It was Christian Greed, the former owner of the XWA. And now he was in charge of what aired on our TV show. And without TV, there is no show. He also introduces us to a new character, a walking stick that he calls the Bird. And the Bird will become a featured player in the next few months. You heard that right. The walking stick will be a featured player. Stay tuned. Christian Greed comes to ringside next, and he actually brings out the reunited High Rollers, Mr. Benjamins and TJ Money. Their opponents will be the Old School Alliance. Christian Greed reveals he's going to referee this one.
I guess that would be
Christian Greed returning as a referee in the B4W.
So it's kind of crazy because he's refereeing, days turning into night, the dogs are barking. This one's going to be a barn burner. The match starts out quick. I take down TJ, grab him in a front face lock, he squirms out, I snap mirror him, and then Benjamin's immediately kicks my leg out from underneath me.
And doing stuff on his own since forming the old...
Now, this was the second time this had actually happened to me in the span of a couple weeks here. So I was having a lot of trouble putting weight on my leg, and the match just started. Luckily, it was a tag match, so I was able to get out of there. But when I was back in, I had the brilliant idea of doing a figure four, which, if you've ever done a figure four to anybody, it really hurts both people. At one point, I argue with Christian Greed, and there's actually a blooper that we aired on a show in the future where I'm yelling and so focused on what I'm doing that I'm not paying attention to TJ Money, who super kicks me. I then look back and realize he had super kicked me, and everybody just started laughing. We took that out of the show and aired it later on. But eventually, Homeboy Joe Slice made his way back into the ring, and I'm celebrating on the outside way too soon, thinking we're going to win this match. And that's when Homeboy Joe Slice was eliminated. Now it's down to 3-on-1, and Joe D quickly uses Tommy Thunder's finisher on me to win the match.
Thunder, it's for you.
Oh! Insulting Tommy Thunder by doing the pedigree.
I thought it looked a little nicer.
And that's 2 huge victories for Joe D in one show. We were starting to create new stars, or at least stars for our small public access show. And the idea was we were building to the future. We just didn't know that future was so finite, and we had just a couple weeks left. That's all for this week. We'll see you next time right here on Backyard Wrestling Cinema.
And he's up. Oh my God! It's over. And he does it. Looking for that super chest. Oh, and Homeboy had nowhere to go but down.
My pick is
Neckbreaker by TJ Money on Oblivion. Double action. Oh, helpful.
All right. Wait a minute. No, 1, 2, 3. No.